We'll be live on the ground as Vigilante groups mass up at the Nayiri Palace. Also tonight, health alert. Ghana Health Service warns you may be at an increased risk of developing respiratory-related illness as Ghana's air quality ranks as one of the worst in the world.
In the lungs, it causes a lot of inflammatory diseases. It exacerbates or makes worse asthma. And so that means that there's increased risks to individual health and public health.
We have details as Ghana Met Office forecast the dust haze over the country is expected to ease in the coming days. Also, Minister Designate for Food and Agriculture Brian Echampon hits back at Emil Short Commission for implicating him in violence that characterized the Yawaso West Worgon by-election in 2019 as he's grilled before Parliament's Appointments Committee.
Where the liability is being placed is where I think it's misplaced. There's no evidence to suggest so.
We have details, plus Minister Designate for Trade and Industry Katie Hammond defends his role in the sale of Ghana's drill ship in the early 2000s as he insists he was not involved in any wrongdoing.
When is it that anybody in recorded history heard that a deputy minister of 3 months at post sells a state asset like a ship? 3 months.
And in business, Agric Minister Designate Brian Echampon promises to make the Buffer Stock Company one of his priority areas to deal with the country's food security needs.
And in sports, we'll hear from the man who discovered Christian Achu Abdul Hayate, insisting the legacy of the former Black Stars player will never be forgotten.
All this plus your views and comments here on Newsnight. My name is Evans Mensah. Details after this. And you're live here on Newsnight on Joy 99.7 FM.
The way the Zante, Wamnan Tinyalaya, Ubola to war.
Well, a series of protests are currently underway in Waliwali, Wulugu, and Kariminga in the northeast region, with angry youth threatening to unleash violence if attempts continue to be made to arrest their overlord. Gridlock is still being reported on the Tamale-Boga Highway as well as other roads linking the region to the upper east and northern regions as they burn tires and mount barriers. The youth laid siege at the police station in the area, vandalizing anything on site following a failed military operation last night to arrest a kin and a man he skinned in Bawku Naba, skinned as Bawku Naba. Listen to one of the spokespersons, A.B. Yaya, who spoke to Joy News earlier.
Authority to Kusasi to arrest Nayiri, the overlord, who is skinning up to a standing of Ghana. Yes, no, a standing of Ghana, not even. I want to know whether president is for Kusasi and not Ghana. Yes. He should tell us. Yes. Why is he supporting Kusasi? Yes. Yes. Why Nayiri is skinned and he said illegally? He should explain to Mapurugu. Yes. What he means by that.
I want to take it live now to the northeast region. Let's speak to our correspondent, Elias Otanko, is on the line with us. We know this protest started in Nalerigu, but we are now getting word it may be spreading and trickling to other communities as well. Tell us more.
Yes, so the police are currently struggling to free up the busy Tamale-Bolaga road, which has been hijacked since morning by these protesters. They are demanding that the government stop meddling in the Bawku chieftaincy issue, and they are also asking that they will not allow any Kusase man or person to travel from Bawku or travel from Tamale to Bawku. And so as I speak to you now, the police in Waliwali are struggling to control the protesters in Waliwali.
So I wonder, with the blockade that we're reporting tonight, how is it affecting transportation for those who use that road? And from what I understand, this is a very busy stretch.
Yes, so since afternoon, they have been very massive gridlock on the road. And we are just being told that the protesters nearly bent a truck that was coming from the Bawku area. And we were told that some police officers who were also traveling to Tamale were returned by this particular protesters. So it's getting very serious. This particular road is a busy transportation corridor. and a number of vehicles use it. And so this particular protest or blockade by the protest is really affecting traffic on this route.
And the authorities, you've talked about the police, even the police themselves have had to backtrack a bit on as a result of what is happening, but the Regional Security Council, we understand they've been meeting.
Yes, so today they had a meeting with the youth of Nayiri, especially. My understanding is that the reason for this particular crunch meeting was to deassociate the council from the events leading to the failed attempt to arrest the overlord of Mamprogu yesterday. And so, apart from this particular denial that they do not know anything about this particular deployment of the military, the Regional Security Council has not been speaking on this particular issue.
Thank you very much. I want to bring in a man who sat through the Regional Security Council meeting today. He is a representative of the youth. Yidana joins us on the telephone line right now. Yidana Hamid, thank you, Yidana, for your time here on Newsnight. Can you share with us what the outcome of this meeting today? Hello, Yidana. Okay, we'll try and get him and bring you details of what happened in this meeting. We'll also be speaking to the security watchers who have been following this very, very closely as far as this is concerned. We would bring you details of that pretty shortly. As you can imagine, this is a developing story in that part of the country. And if you are in that part of the country tonight and you're listening to us or affected by the roadblocks that we have been reporting tonight, I want to hear from you. 055-1111-997 is the WhatsApp line. We'll be speaking pretty shortly with, hopefully, if we can get Yidan on the line, who sat through this RECSEC meeting. Many of you want to hear what has happened on the back of the meetings that has happened today, and we'll try and bring you that as and when we get it. Tonight, though, I can bring you news, something that you possibly have observed. You may be at an increased risk of developing a respiratory-related illness. That's the warning from the Ghana Health Service, as Ghana's air quality ranks as one of the worst in the world. You may have noticed how hazy the atmosphere around you has become in the last few days. It is because of an increase in the concentration of fine particles in the air. According to the Ghana Met Office, the dust was transported from the Sahara regions by strong winds at lower levels of the atmosphere. Ghana's air quality index has shot up in the last few days and was rated hazardous ahead of known cities with toxic air quality like Delhi, Mumbai, Lahore, Dhaka, and Wuhan. Well, my colleague Michael Papania Shale joins me in the studio with details of this. What are the current readings we are picking up?
So from the data set I've been looking at, we have been averaging 184 for the most part of the day. However, it's expected that these numbers reduce further in the course of the week. And the Met Office, they've been giving us a bit more clarity on what is happening. Yeah, so in a communique signed by the Acting Director General of the agency, it says, typically the Harmattan season persists until late February or early March in most parts of the country, with variations in the intensity of the dry and dusty conditions within the season. However, on Monday, February 13, 2023, the agency observed high pressure systems around the northern regions of Africa, which are projected to stir up dust over the dust source region. Consequently, on Wednesday, meteorological satellites detected dust lifted around Chad, Sudan, and Niger. This dust was transported into the country by strong winds at lower levels of the atmosphere. As a result, an intensification of dry and dusty weather conditions was expected to be experienced in Ghana during the week, as issued in the GMET weekly and daily forecast. Furthermore, to the above, this resulted in dryness and decreased visibility, which may take some time to clear completely. Well, the Environmental Protection Agency is also giving us a bit more detail on this pretty scary stuff. The Executive Director of the Environmental Protection Agency, Henry Kokofu, says the figures are frighteningly higher than the WHO prescribed standards. However, he says a continued release of pollutants from burning may have contributed.
Season. This is a natural phenomenon. and is collaborated by data on particulate level gathered over the period by the Environmental Protection Agency. Particularly, the levels recorded between 17 and 19 February 2023 were very high. The pollutant levels exceeded national limits and World Health Organization interim target 3 values of 35 and 25 micro cubic meters respectively. Even though the records show natural phenomenon occurring, we cannot run away from the fact that our own human activities are major contributors or major drivers to the situation we have on our hands. And this includes indiscriminate burning of all forms of materials, particularly used ties, vehicle used ties. Again, household food cooking using firewood, including fish smoking and other related activities. Very key on the agenda is vehicular emissions. And you all bear with me that most 2/3 of our vehicles emit above the limited, the allowable limits. And Ghana Standard Authority has the vehicular emissions limits advertised all over. It is understandable because admittedly we have systemic failure in tracking down vehicular emission in this country.
Well, the Ghana Health Service is now warning that you may now, as a result of what we're witnessing in the atmosphere in Accra in particular, expose you to higher risk of getting respiratory-related illness. Listen to the Deputy Director of Institutional Care Division of the Ghana Health Service, Mary Aram Ashinyo.
Air pollution causes harm to virtually every organ of the body, although the primary point of entry usually will be the respiratory tract. So it's in the lungs, it causes a lot of inflammatory diseases. It exacerbates or makes worse asthma. But we also know that because they are particles that are very, very small, they have the capacity to move from the respiratory tract into the blood stream of human beings. And once they do that, it also means that they can be pumped to any other organ that is receiving blood. So it can cause diseases in the heart, in the brains, and everywhere else. And so that means that there's increased risk to individual health and public health. So if you see people who would have asthma, for instance, there's an increased risk that they might have attacks, whereas if the air quality was good, they would not have run into an attack.
So what should you do to avoid, getting a health issue as a result of the poor quality of the air around us tonight?
That also means that for people who have such acute respiratory attacks and would have been managing at home under usual circumstances and get relief from their usual treatment would have more difficulty controlling their acute attack. Those who have existing respiratory illnesses, for instance, I give the example of those who have asthma or any chronic respiratory disease, those people become more at risk to getting acute exacerbations compared to individuals that have more healthy lungs and hearts at the time.
Thankfully, we can now speak to the Environmental Protection Agency's Executive Director, Mr. Henry Kokofu. Mr. Kokofu, thank you for your time here on Newsnight.
Thank you, Mensah.
So, do we have... I've heard you explain the various factors that may contribute to this, but why are we seeing that now? I mean, is it that an accumulation of it over the years that all of a sudden in the last few days began just to show up in the environment? What's happening here?
Well, it's not that much of accumulation. It is the escalation of the sandstorm, if you like, blowing over the Sahel region, over northern region, down here, south. So it's the quantity of sand that is providing the dust particle in the atmosphere that accounts for it. However, we also do agree I do agree with that over time we've been polluting the air through indiscriminate burning of fossil fuel, through vehicle industry, and then also fuel wood for cooking and all other things. The most dangerous had been the burning of e-waste, electronic waste, and used car tires. They all emit these dangerous gas. They have been in them for quite a long time. So, well, one may say it's meant up reaching point. And then the circumstances that in, the Mensah atmosphere that is taking to the illness that we can.
Unfortunately, we're having a terrible connection to Mr. Kokofu there. We'll try and get him on a better connection, and so we can get a bit more clarity for you, because this has to do with your health. And that's why we can now also speak to the Ghana Met Agency. Joshua Samoa joins us now. He's a senior Met officer there and joins us with some clarity on this. Hello, Joshua. Thanks for your time here on Newsline.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, from everything I've heard, this is purely Harmattan, is it?
Yes, the Harmattan is not over. It's still within the Harmattan season. So it's Harmattan of it. Yes,
Forgive me, I just had a challenge hearing you. You're saying that the Harmattan isn't over, and this is just Harmattan winds blowing across the sub-region and in Accra.
Yes, the Harmattan is still there. We had a relaxation earlier around January, but there's an intensification in the Harmattan conditions. So that's what we are experiencing at the moment.
So this is not because we're polluting the environment. I mean, from the Met office, are you ruling that out?
No, what we are saying is that the atmosphere may be polluted, but the dusty conditions that have been intruded into the country are just compounding the pollutants that we have in the air. So this is just an increase in the pollutants. Yeah, but it probably was there, but because the magnitude was not that high when the dust was not in the country, we didn't feel it that much. But with the intrusion of the dust, we are feeling it more, and so that's the cause of the alarm that we are having now.
You talk about alarm. You've been measuring this over the years. Is this with the World Monitoring Agencies ranking Ghana tonight? In fact, since yesterday and today, they're ranking Ghana the worst in the world in terms of air quality. Can you corroborate that at the Ghana Met office?
Unfortunately, we don't have data on air quality for a period of time, so we can't speak to that. I'm not sure if EPA will have that data, but for us as a meteorological institution, we don't have that information. But based on the data that we are seeing, this is not the worst that we've seen in the years that we've seen the Harmattan happen. So it's not really something that is out of the ordinary, but it's just because of the time that the event is happening. People saw some rains in January, and so they thought that the dry season was over. And so when they saw the intrusion of the dust, it was a bit of a problem seeing those abrupt changes in the weather conditions. That is one of the reasons why it is alarming to see these things. But it's not out of the norm, the kind of conditions that we are seeing now.
When do you expect this to ease completely?
Okay, so the conditions that we saw, which stirred up the dust in the source region, that's around Chad, Niger, Sudan areas, and transported into the country, are expected to relax around midweek towards weekend. So with these relaxations that we are seeing in the atmosphere, we expect that from midweek towards the weekend, we'll start seeing better conditions in the atmosphere. Visibility will improve. The moisture content in the air will also improve, and these conditions will relax. But that does not mean that we are completely out of the dry season. For areas in the northern portions of Ghana, they will continue to experience these dryness. But for us in the south, there may be some cases of rainfall even into next week. But for the week, from now till midweek, we'll continue to see these conditions, but they will relax towards the weekend.
Is this only happening in Accra or across the country?
It's actually across the country. The intensity is actually higher for areas in the north and transition and middle portions of the country. The coastal sector is the least affected area in the whole country.
I see. So which means that those away from the coast up north are having a pretty worse atmospheric conditions compared to what we're having here in Accra.
Exactly. For us in the southern portion, the lowest visibility we've seen is around 3,000 meters. But if you go to the north, they are reporting around 200 meters visibility. So it means if someone is ahead of you and the person is within beyond 200 meters, it will be very hard to see that person. So it's worse in the northern portions of Ghana. That's where the intensity is actually higher.
Joshua, thank you very much. And Joshua Samoa is a senior Met officer there at the Ghana Met Agency. Thankfully, the chief executive of the Environmental Protection Agency, Mr. Kokofu, is back on the line. Mr. Kokofu, so all the international agencies were recording and telling us that our air quality has hit the lowest. In fact, we're comparing to the rest of the world, we're the worst. Has the EPA managed to corroborate that fact?
I must admit that leading to the Christmas festivities, EPA had the opportunity to engage the press. And at that point, we were dealing with two major pollution aspects, noise pollution and then the air pollution. We hinted that we are taking signals that the quality of our air is getting worse and worse. So we've been saying this for quite a long time. And you will recall that the Apawu enclave provided us as a nation with the unenviable record of Accra being one of the worst air quality cities in the world. So once we were able to get rid of Apawu and stop many indiscriminate burning of materials, including e-waste, we were of the hope that we will soon be getting good quality. Then all of a sudden this came up, and today we are discussing. Just as the experts have already said, the situation is escalated by the quantum of dust particles or particulates that we find in the atmosphere. However, we cannot run away from the fact that human activities have been contributing to the pollution of the air, particularly vehicular emissions, indiscriminate burning of wood, tires being burnt here and there, left and right. So it's something that we could or prevent and then make the system a bit okay.
Yeah, Mr. Kokofu, I must tell you that in the last few days, a few of my colleagues have all have to call in sick because before they left, struggling they have respiratory challenges. The cough was terrible, and no wonder the Ghana Health Service was warning that we are now at a higher risk of respiratory illness. What's the advice?
Well, I think most of the advice has already been enumerated. However, it's important to reiterate over them. You should stop indiscriminate burning. People think it's a norm to gather your rubbish around your surroundings, set fire on them. People think it's so good a practice when at the household you stoke fire, food cooking with these fuel and all those things are inimical to the provision of good air. Then, most importantly, destruction of tree species and vegetation. We must be on the lookout. These are the lungs of the world. I mean, the forest or the number of trees that are around providing oxygen. They continuously purify the air, but we do not see or we do not appreciate the importance of these trees. We must, as a matter of urgency, change those attitudes and have a positive attitude towards peace. Vehicular emissions. It's about time as a country we engage ourselves to either have a very pragmatic solution to the challenge of vehicular emissions. We have vehicles that are well over 30, 35 years plying on our roads for commercial activities, private and all other things. And they are emitting heavily. These and many other things can be prevented, and it's about time we do so. It becomes quite unfortunate when you are sitting where we are and enjoying the chorus of complaining. It is not the best. While we feel crack the whip, yes, we have got to crack the whip, but it goes beyond the normal cracking of the whip. It has rooting in the socio-economic fabric of our people. So, by and large, we have got to sit up and do the needful.
Mr. Kokofu, thank you very much. And he's the Chief Executive of the Environmental Protection Agency there. And if you're one of those concerned about the health alert issued by the Ghana Health Service today because of the current atmospheric conditions, you may have noticed it since the weekend or before that, how hazy it's been. Well, the Ghana Health Service is warning tonight that it could have severe health implications on you, particularly with respiratory challenges. This is the advice from the Deputy Director of the Institutional Care Division of the Ghana Health Service.
That also means that for people who have such acute respiratory attacks and would have been managing at home under usual circumstances and get relief from their usual treatment would have more difficulty controlling their acute attack. Those who have existing respiratory illnesses, for instance, I give the example of those who have asthma or any chronic respiratory disease, those people become more at risk to getting acute exacerbations compared to individuals that have more healthy lungs and heart at the time.
So just bear that in mind. As you've just heard there, wearing of nose mask becomes important in these times. It prevents the particles from having direct access to your nostrils and then causing you the challenges that some of my colleagues have experienced over the last few days as well. So listening to News Night is on Joy 99.7 FM. I quickly want to return to our top story this hour, the reporting from the Northeast region tonight of a gridlock on the Tamale-Bolga Highway as youth protest there spread across parts of the Northeast region with the burning of ties and chanting of war songs as they vow to resist arrest of the overlord. As we know, the Regional Security Council has been meeting today to try and bring some closure to this and get the security apparatus to deal with the situation after directed by the government that the recently installed chief there who was skinned be arrested. The military had attempted to do so, but they were met with fierce resistance. Subsequently, the youth have taken matters into their own hands and have blocked roads in that part of the country. Let's speak to Yudana Hamid, who sat through the RECSEC meeting and joins us on the telephone line right now. He's a youth representative. Hello, Yudana. Thank you for your time here on Newsnight.
Thank you, Evans. Good evening to you and your listeners.
Can you share with us the outcome of this RECSEC meeting today?
Yeah, so Evans, I have to put it on record that I was not officially part of this RECSEC meeting. I had gone to the Regional Police Command with a lawyer for the King of Mamprogo, and we chanced upon this meeting, and then they thought that once the King's council was there, it was good that they just had a conversation because they had some security challenges and they wanted a way to communicate effectively with the palace, especially in respect to the impasse that happened last night. The Rambo style entry into Nalirgo under the pretext that they were going to arrest the king and the newly installed Bokonaba, and of course the resulting chaos that we have seen across Mamprogo in reaction to that. And so basically, they were happy that counsel for the king had come, and they just wanted to find a way of letting the king know that this is something that is a mishap, not the military, not the police, not more. And I'm mentioning all these people because they are part of the security apparatus in the region. None of them knew that these 5 armored cars that zoomed into the Northeast region last night of which the youth were very alert and aware and actually tracked these vehicles. They went and stopped in Gambaga for a while and eventually entered Nalerugu and went straight to where the Bokunaba is staying. And then, of course, met that resistance from the youth. Eventually came to the palace of the overlord. Of course, they met again, huge resistance of the Wook. I'm sure your correspondent captured that. And then, of course, the reaction today across the kingdom of what had happened, and that translated into the burning of tithes and all of that.
Let me ask you about that.
Yes.
Let me ask you about that very quickly, because I'm pretty sure you are for peace. I mean, when he was in Skin, I remember he himself at that ceremony asked that peace reigns. This matter is still one that the state is trying to resolve. As we've seen today, they blocked the roads, etc. Since you're very close to the Skin chief, what is it that you're doing to try and bring peace to this area?
No, actually, it's very interesting. Because of this chance meeting with the RECSEC, they took our contacts, and of course, we also took their contacts. And then we kept getting calls. We haven't launched when we kept getting calls that there was a chaotic situation in Walwali. And trust me, the security apparatus, they were there, military were there, police were there, but I think they were just helpless. And they felt that meeting us and the demeanor and, the fact that these are people who came to try and have things resolved in a very civil manner, they thought that they should call upon us to come and see if we could talk to the youth and intervene so that, whatever it is that they think might happen. Like you said, everybody's for peace. So quickly, myself with counsel for the Nayiri and his driver, we rushed to Walwali, and I must tell you, it's not been easy. Evans, I've lived in Accra for a long time, and you all know how chaotic the traffic situation is in Accra. Walwali today was worse than, any traffic situation I've ever witnessed. If you are going to drive from one end of the town to the other end, you would drive on end, and you have all
our reporter brought us the report. So,
yes.
Have you managed to get the
young
people to
the youth actually, they resisted, but when they realized that the one who was talking to them was counsel for the Nayiri, they paid attention. But, you could see that these are people who had pent-up emotions. They felt that this warrant that everybody woke up to, calling for the arrest of the king, they felt this was bizarre. They were asking themselves if it was a dream that anybody could just wake up and think that they could.
So have they unblocked the roads now?
They have subsequently unblocked the road. In fact, like I told you earlier on, it was the security apparatus that called us, and that together with them, they stood there and witnessed how counsel for the overlord spoke to these youth, who initially didn't want to listen to anybody, but eventually they saw reason in allowing traffic to flow.
Okay. So traffic is flowing right now for those who are using that stretch.
Right now, traffic is flowing. I would say it's easing. Initially, traffic was moving at a very slow pace, but now it's easing.
It's easing. Okay, thank you very much, Yidana Mohammed, and thanks for that update. If you're using that stretch, this will be important for you as traffic begins to ease in the part. It's a very, very hectic stretch indeed, a part of the Northeast region. Adam Bona, security analyst, has been watching this very closely and joins us on the line right now. Mr. Bona, thanks for your time. And very briefly, so this was started because of an attempt to arrest the skinned chief. I mean, we know it's disputed. Government says it's illegal. What do you make of that approach?
Well, Evans, good evening. I think it's basically, to put it bluntly, is very senseless. You don't go into a palace that is about 1,500 years old, and you think that you can go in and attempt to arrest the overlord or anybody who is hiding in there, and his kinsmen, his subjects, are going to look on for you to do that. I wouldn't even say it is a catastrophic failure of intelligence. I would say it's due to zero intelligence. As at the time they got there, even the person who had been in skin was not in the palace. So what were they there for? Who did they speak to? Who asked them to go to the palace? What were they going there to do? I mean, if you want to catch whoever you wanted to arrest, I mean, there are so many ways of arresting persons like that if you wanted to arrest the newly enskined chief. But obviously you can't go and say you can't, even if you wanted to do that, not in the manner they did it. Evans, not in the manner they did it. And as we speak, Evans, this conflict is spreading all over the country. Are you aware that there's been some stabbing in Ashaman that is connected to this conflict in Bawku area, Wali Wali and the rest? This is how serious this thing is. So as far as I'm concerned, the security agencies are uncoordinated, and I would call on the President of the Republic, if he's listening, to have one person among the security ministers, I don't know who, to coordinate issues with Bawku, because it looks like too many security officers are taking too many instructions from different, people, and that is what is creating the unending tension and the resultant effect of the chaos we have seen from last night to this morning.
Anambona, thank you very much. Still ahead, Minister Designate for Food and Agriculture, Brian Echampon, hits back at ML Short Commission for implicating him in violence that characterized Ayawasowa's war-gone by-election in 2019 as he's grilled before Parliament's Appointments Committee. Let's do business now, and George is here with the latest.
I still have something from the Agric Minister Designate, who is promising to make the Buffer Stock Company one of his priority areas to help deal with the country's food security needs, and even 70 about 2 cargoes totaling 75,000 metric tons of petroleum products under the Gold for Oil program docks at the country's ports. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Allianz Life and Ghana Pay. You welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, a Agric Minister Designate Brian Echampon has promised to make the Buffer Stock Company one of its priority areas in dealing with the country's food security needs. The minister disclosed this when he appeared before Parliament's Appointments Committee today. He also promised to make the sector attractive to the youth as well.
I was surprised myself when I found out that buffer stock is struggling to the extent that they had the opportunity to feed the free SHS program. They have supplied quite a lot, but they are not getting payments on time. So beyond their initial seed capital, they are struggling in other areas. This is something that I will push to reverse immediately, that I get in. I know that these are hard times, but I will advocate strongly that as part of our national security, we need to ensure that buffer stock is positioned to deliver us when we get there. So, Ranking, be assured, I'm going to work with you to ensure that buffer stock is resourced to do what it's supposed to do. Thank you.
A great Minister Designate Brian Echampon. Now, 2 cargoes totaling 75,000 metric tons of petroleum products have docked at the country's ports. This is what Joy Business has picked up from the Bulk Oil Storage and Transportation Company. There is more in this report.
Joy Business understands that out of these 2 cargoes that have arrived between Saturday, February 18 and Sunday, 19 February 2023, 40,000 metric tons are diesel and 35 metric tons are petrol, respectively. This sums up to 75,000 metric tons of petroleum products that have come in so far in terms of the imports under the Gold for Oil program. The Bulk Oil Storage and Transportation Company, BOST, has disclosed it is expecting about 152,000 metric tons of petroleum products and that initiative for the month of February. Diesel will make up for about 80,000 metric tons of the total cargo, and petrol will be about 72,000 metric tons. The Bulk Oil Storage and Transportation Company says they have received demand orders from about 18 bulk oil distribution companies, totaling 140,000 metric tons. BOST is optimistic that with these consignments coming in, that could have a positive impact on the prices of petroleum products.
Was a business desk report. Let's still stay on the subject area because government is projecting some significant reduction in prices of petroleum products from next month. Now, this will be based on how the Gold for Oil program would impact on petroleum products and the continued stability of the Ghana city. Let's hear from Andre Mensah. He's the Deputy Minister of Energy.
When additional consignment of the Gold for Oil policy that we are working, framework of which has been put in place to ensure that we get some relatively, I don't want to use the word cheaper, because the truth of the matter is that
competitive, you want to say?
Competitively, if you like, priced petroleum products, and the NPE has indicated that the intention is to ramp it up to about 50-60% by March end 2023. So I'm hopeful. So all things being equal, and with the steady stabilizing, of course, my expectation is that now that the Ministry of Finance has successfully executed the domestic debt exchange program, it's a step closer to concluding the IMF program, which will give a huge boost to investor confidence in our economy. We'll get access to some, forex that then helps stabilizing the city, and obviously we all will be the.
I'll be coming.
Mensah is the Deputy Minister of Energy. Now, passenger arrivals at the international airport, that is Kotoka, increased by 24.4% year on year to hit 82,977 tourists ending November 2022 compared to a month earlier. Now, tourist arrivals also went up by 1.6%. Now, this was captured in the Bank of Ghana monetary reports ending January 2023. For the first 11 months of 2022, a total of 810,000 tourist arrivals was recorded at the Kotoka International Airport and land borders, compared to 548,000 for the corresponding year of 2021, representing a growth of 47.8%. Now, this report from the Bank of Ghana has shown that in terms of international arrivals, they have picked up strongly compared to 2001, and that could impact on the economy in terms of taxes, spending, and how that will impact on the broader tourism industry in terms of earnings for the economy. If we turn our attention to the stock market, there wasn't any price change on the market that could adversely affect those who are holding shares in the various listed companies on the Ghana Stock Exchange. But in terms of real returns, as in year to date, you've gone down if you have investment. The market has gone down by over 1%. For the financial stocks, it's over 3%. And that's all for business on Newsnight. Back to you, Evans.
Thank you very much, George. Now, Minister Designate for Trade and Industry, Katie Hammond, has fought back claims by NDC MPs on the Appointments Committee that he was indicted with the controversial sale of Ghana's drill ship in the early 2000s. Now, the controversial sale of the state asset resulted in a commission of inquiry, which the Minority Chief Whip Kwame Agboja and Hassan Suhini believe found him guilty. But Katie Hammond says, as Deputy Minister, who had only been in office for 3 months, he could not have played the role some want to ascribe to him.
It was decided that a commission to be put in place to investigate all these corruption allegations and all of that and all of that. Speaker, from nowhere, a decision was made that a single transaction which went back 12 years, which was the sale of so not entirely the sale, but the transaction in respect of the drill ship, be added to the commission's deliberations. Speaker, I was invited to attend when the what we call the Apawu committee, Mr. Speaker, was put in place. I attended. My brother Dabucho was there. My then minister at the time, who was involved with this, was also there, Kandapa. But I was at the center of it, so it was fair that questions were put at me. Now, Mr. Chairman, I put it to everybody here. When is it that anybody in recorded history heard that a deputy minister of 3 months at post sells a state asset like a ship? 3 months. We went to the ministry, I think about April or so. This thing took place about June, July. 3 months. Cabinet met. What had happened was that the GMPC that I talked about, Mr. Speaker, had been run aground. It's going to be lengthy. I want to explain it so the whole country understands. Mr. Speaker, somehow a decision had been consciously made by the GMPC outfit at the time that they were going to involve in what they call hedging. For all those around who know about the commercial transactions and whatever, Mr. Speaker, hedging is a kind of gamble.
Well, at the beginning of the hearings today, vetting of Katie Hammond, Some members of the committee were quite concerned that Katie Hammond appeared to be too relaxed.
Mr. Chairman, the nominee must realize that he's before a serious committee. You can do whatever you do with us outside the sitting of the committee. When you come before the committee and you're on national television and everybody is viewing, you must take us serious. I'm asking a question. Let me finish asking the question. And if you have an answer, you can give your answer. If you tell the whole country that you've not been paying attention to the papers that have been given to you, it's up to you.
Mr. Chairman,
we are working on your nomination, and you are interjecting and directing
Honorable member, it's me. I'm supposed to regulate the meeting. So if I'm failing, I'll take responsibility. Please proceed with your question. That's it.
The question I have.
I wanted to repeat what Honorable Ayariga said. At a time of our country where people are in real difficulty making ends meet, I'm of the view that the nominee is very affable, and we all know. But when you are about to take, at least as the president wished, a position as a trade minister, you need to put up a posture that is more serious than being friendly to us.
I thought, please, Honorable, please, I think it's my fault.
Well, it did not stop Katie Hammond from issuing this warning to his committee, to the committee members, just before the vetting itself started in earnest.
Introduce me as being the class prefect, the senior prefect. I would expect members to put up their best behavior. I will put up my very best behavior, and then we'll get it. I have the class prefect in the chair, so I still remain the class prefect. So it should be well behaved.
Also before the Appointments Committee today was the Minister Designate for Agriculture, who was grilled about his involvement in the 2019 Ayawaso West Wuogon by-election violence. At the time, he was the responsible for the National Security Ministry as a Minister of State there. He questioned the Emil Short Commission's recommendation that seemed to reprimand him and implicate him in the violence.
I sympathize with those who are wounded on that day. Indeed, when I was there at the Ministry of National Security, I ensured that all those who were wounded were treated at the 37 military hospital, and all expenses of such were paid by the state that authorized the operation. Subsequent to that, Mr. Chairman, laws have been passed by this House, and today we no longer hear about vigilantism the way we used to hear about it in the past. It was unfortunate it happened. It should never have happened, but be that it may, it's past and gone.
Well, he says the violence remains a blot on Ghana's democracy. Brian Champon says he would have done a better job if he had been in charge of the operation.
100+ report. There wasn't any mention of me having authorized anything anywhere in the report. So everybody, including myself, was surprised and afraid that my name found expression in the conclusion that I should be reprimanded. And that is why my classmates, if you look at the commission, the white paper that cleared me, individual liabilities 6.3, it says that the commission, the government rejects, emphasis rejects, the commission's recommendation on paragraph 8.3 because the commission failed to establish the factual basis for that recommendation. That is what the white paper said. That you say we should reprimand him for authorizing an operation in a built-up area, but we reject it because you have not provided any reason to support that assertion. So yes, I have been cleared by the white paper, which forms part of the commission's report. But notwithstanding the report in itself and the white paper, it's my conscience that I have to live with. It's me, Brian Champon, the Presbyterian, notwithstanding everything that I am known for. I have to be able to live with myself. I am a man and responsible for what I do. I cannot be responsible for what everybody else does. And I'm saying that for Ayawaso West Walk, I did not authorize it. I didn't know anything about it. When I had opportunities to speak, I spoke in the collective that yes, I knew of the SWAT team. I have been briefed about the operation, and I said at an FM station in Nkoko that in fact I was unhappy with the way the operation was carried out.
And that's Brad Champon. He used to be the Minister of State of the National Security, and now he's a Minister Designate for Agriculture. Let's do sports now. Ms. Bao is here with the very latest. Hello, Ms. Bao.
Well, yes, Evans, of course, the body of Christian Atsu landed yesterday at the Kotoka International Airport, received by government, the Ghana Football Association, and the family. And one person who's been speaking is the founder of Cheetah FC and the man who discovered Christian Atsu, Abdul Hayate. He has described him as an angel on earth, and he believes the player lived an exemplary life which must be emulated by all footballers.
For me, I would describe Christian as an angel on earth. Christian was a Christian. The way he does his things, sometimes you don't believe it. I think we need to remember Christian for his generosity, how humble he is, how determined he is. And I think this should inspire footballers. He loves Messi so much. I remember when he went to Porto and he was coming back, Porto gave him a DVD of Messi, Ronaldinho, and one other player that I've forgotten. And then I told him, you are the black Messi, the African Messi. But God Almighty, who brought Christian to us, knows very well that he come and accomplish whatever he wants him to do on earth. And then God needs him more than we. And I believe Christian is happy wherever he is currently.
Founder of Cheetah FC, Abdul Hayate, the man who is noted to have discovered Christian Atsu.
I see. And do you know when he's going to be buried?
We understand between 2 months from now, the burial should happen.
Okay. Yeah. May he so rest in perfect peace indeed. And just a couple of messages on our WhatsApp console. This one from Senna says the Regional Security Council must immediately deploy more security men to arrest the person who's calling himself the Overlord. And the final one on the subject of our atmospheric condition tonight. Henry says, would you mind summarizing to us exactly the advice EPA man gave? I could not understand a word from him. A few of your comments there. And up next is school intake versus population intake. It's on That's My Opinion with an answer call here on Joy 99.7 FM.